And we're back with round 3. We have Shad May against Imaad Davids. Nice control matchup.
Shad on Black Blue Control and Imaad on Jeskai Approach.
So I've played both sides in the matchup, and I think Jeskai is not favored game 1. I think Blue Black is slightly favored. There's more control spell, or more draw spells and more counters.
But in game 2, does Imaad, the Jeskai deck, does it become favored?
I think Jeskai, well, Imaad's World of Jeskai will become a bit more favored game 2 because he has a bunch of additional win cons that Shad may not expect. Tornadi's Summoner, Gideon of the Trials, Metallurgic Summonings, Dovin Ban.
How many removal spells does Shad play in the main?
In the main, Shad has 4 Fatal Push, 4 Vraska's Contempt, 3 Moment of Craving.
Those are all dead?
Effectively dead cards game 1. Although Imaad does have a couple of creatures, unfortunately for him. So Shad does in fact have dual targets for his removal. However, the fact that Shad has 4 Torrential Gyalks, that's a way that you swing the game in the first game at least, because you effectively have 8 disallows, your opponent only has 4.
I believe Imaad plays
2
4
Torrentials mainboard.
2 Torrentials, but he plays 4 Braids.
Yeah, he does play 4 Blades.
So a nice 2-mana answer for Gyalk.
Not too sure if he might actually has a mainboard answer to the Scarab God though, besides Settle the Wreckage. Yeah, he basically has no mainboard permanent answer for the Scarab God.
They draw in a 7.
Another reason why Shad is probably favored game 1 is game 1 he has 3 copies of Ipnu Rivulet, which means he can mull over Imaad's copies of Approach of the Second Sun.
So Imaad would need to keep a
double approach hand effectively.
Well, he has one approach in his opening hand. Imaad ripping the Dovin Ban sleeves. The best planeswalker of all time. To Imaad.
Yeah, apparently Dovin Ban is a very good planeswalker, even though it can't target vehicles. And the ulti doesn't win you the game, so we'll see how that goes. Our good friend Zamir Hussain believes Dovin Ban is the best planeswalker of all time, I think.
And slowly convincing Imaad.
And
did you see who won the dice roll?
Sure. Not too sure when the dice roll could be shared. I believe they're waiting for us to confirm whether they can start.
So, I see Swamp Island. Shad has 4 lands, a Vraska's Contempt, Disallow, and a Gyalk. So,
effectively a 5-card hand in this matchup.
How important is a turn to
search for a Scanter?
Search.
So, turn to search for a Scanter is generally how the blue-black deck sort of gets its advantage. The games where you have turn to search for a Scanter feels a lot better than the games you don't. I think control in general, if you have a turn to search for a Scanter, you have a bigger advantage over most decks.
We see Imaad just play search. Shad drew a Glimmer last turn. I believe he drew another land this turn.
Yeah, I believe it was a Fetid Pools. He's probably going to cycle that if Imaad doesn't play anything.
Does Imaad have the 4th land in hand?
I do not believe he has the 4th land in hand. He had to keep the land on top with Search for a Scanter.
So he drew that as his 3rd land. He cycled.
Cycled into a land. We'll draw another land. Channel Glimmer of Genius.
So do you think Imaad just goes for the turn 7 approach?
The nice thing about approach on the second sun is the first one can be counted, because the first one still counts as the first one you cast. So if the first one gets counted, the second one will still win you the game regardless.
Do you think Shad's just gonna slam Scarab God? I believe he drew it for the turn.
I think he's going to play his own copy of Search for a Scanter.
Sure.
I think he drew it last turn but opted to play Glimmer of Genius instead. Or he could have drawn it off the Glimmer.
Imaad does his own Glimmer.
And Shad should be aware that his counter spells really need to go for Approach of the Second Sun in this match. If it's going to come down to decking, Shad will be favored because of his Ipnu Rivulet's mainboard.
How often do the approach decks mold himself?
It gets to a point where in the control meta, if they counter all of your approach with the second hands, it may be easier to scoop if you've drawn more cards than your opponent.
Sure. So we see Imaad lead with the blue-white tap land instead of the blue-red tap land. I think mainly to give him that extra white source.
Yeah, he kind of wants to have settled the deckage in case his opponent plays a copy of the scattered card.
So we see him glimmering. He is looking at settle and don't know what the second card was.
Well, he has now drawn into the second copy of Approach of the Second Sun. The second card he was looking at was Supreme Will. He is more than likely going to keep that.
So Imaad with tap land. So at the moment he's got settle the wreckage, cast out, opt, a land,
And a disallow.
disallow, and 2 approaches.
I believe 2 approaches, yes. And Chad, seeing 2 lands,
Keeps 1.
keeps 1.
Oh, thinking about it again.
Yeah, he's gonna keep 1. Draw 2 cards.
Did he draw into the second?
Second copy of the Scattered Card, yes. And he cycles his fated pools. Imaad goes to discard. Chad will bottom any fatal push type cards. He will draw.
We see Shad bottom.
Winning a Field of Ruin. I
Yeah.
think you might want Field of Ruin in the match, but he also wants to try and flip his own Search for Scanty as quickly as possible.
Sure. Is Imaad not in the lead to flip?
He is definitely going to flip first. But at this point, both graveyards at 5 cards, so anything can happen. We are going to see the first copy of Approach of the Second Set.
So Imaad's going to need to wait. Do you think Imaad's going to wait till he has 10 mana to cast the second approach?
With the counterspell, I believe so. Also, that will also incentivize Shad to use 3 mana to mull the top 4 cards of Imaad's library. Is a problem for Shad though that Imaad goes up to 27.
And we haven't seen any life point swings.
And Shad, Torrential Gale into Glimmer of Genius, will more than likely bottom search for a Scanter and the land, trying to get as many counterspells as possible. Throws into a Fatal Push, unfortunately. He does draw into Field of Ruin, which means he will be able to answer his opponent's search for a Scanter if it does flip. Alternatively, he could force his opponent to shuffle.
He's drawn into a Vraska's Contempt.
Attacks for 5.
So do you think Imaad always searches for another land, or does he?
I think he has to at this point because he doesn't have an 8th land.
Alright, so it's going to be very important for the search to flip and give him a land if he wants to get to the 10 mana mark.
Yeah. So Shad going to force him out to search now.
Shad does have 2 blue.
He has double blue, double black. He will probably fetch another island though. Field of Ruin being surprisingly played in both modern and standard. I think in modern it's even played in a bunch of 3-color decks, surprisingly. The fact that it reduces colorless is less relevant because it can fetch any basic of your choice to fix your colors.
So I think Shad has 2 Vraska's Contempts in hand. One.
Fatal Push as well. 2 copies of the Scattered God, a basic land, and a disallow.
Do you know if Imaad plays any negates in the main board?
I do believe he plays 0 copies in the main board.
So that was interesting. He binned a land with a search of a scanner to flip the search.
Yep, because he had a copy of Irrigated Farmland in hand. And now also flips his search for a Scanter.
So Shad only has 1 disallow in hand. We go for the braid first.
Yeah, I think you always played first. The Stagel Galk.
Do you think
Not.
Shad plays Scatter God?
So the issue with playing the Scatter God is if his opponent has another copy of uh, Approach of the Second Sun, his opponent will just win on the next turn if he tries to play the Scatter God and hold up an activation.
So Shad at the moment has 1, 2, 4 blue sources.
So he might try and fight over this. Shad will let the disallow resolve. I think that play was incorrect. I think he might have to try and resolve his cost out to deal with the Scattered God.
Well,
And yeah, you see he does draw into another land, so he might would have been able to play Approach of the Second Suns plus disallow this third.
well, generally the blue-black decks play 5, 6 win conditions.
Yeah.
Um, well, Imaad has the
Oh,
counter
he still
spell.
has 3 more.
So are we gonna go to game 2 now?
Hey, man's not even waiting for Shad to play his counter.
What? Oh, Shad's just showing that he had the land in hand.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate sort of play of events there. Shad had the land in hand, could have played for Supreme Will.
Though it was Imaad's turn.
Yeah. I think Shad is a bit too hasty with the Scarab God, but at the same time, he was in no position to really answer a counterspell plus Approach at the second time.
So what do you think they start voting?
So, okay, let's have a look at the deck list. For Imaad, he sides in answers plus negates.
So Gideon, do you think Gideon of the Trials,
Gideon of the Trials is a pretty powerful card.
so Gideon of the Trials Metallurgic Summoning cost out?
I don't like. I think cost out is fine because his opponent only has X amount of win cons, and it does deal with metallurgic summons on his opponent's side. I
There's
think he sides in all his planeswalkers,
the famous Devon Band.
Dovenvan, Excellence Binding, Torrential Galk, Negate. Probably sides out Fumigate, Sweltering Suns.
Do you think it takes out the approach for the second sun? And maybe
I
tries
think
to
you
win?
side out some number of approaches.
Sure.
I think you may keep one in to keep your opponent honest.
And what about the Regal Carical?
Legal Carical, powerful card. His opponent will be expecting that, however. So
So you had Shad has 4 Vraska's Contempts. The other removal spells
do
don't
nothing against
really work.
everything again of Imaad's basically. On Shad's side, he's definitely siding in Vizier of Many Faces, Metallurgic Summons, Negate Dude, yes. Probably also Pull from Tomorrow and then possibly Vona's Anger.
Um,
I think bad cards on Shad's side, Fatal Push, Moment of Craving, definitely all coming out. He needs to
do you
assume.
think it takes Essence Scatter out?
So the issue with taking Essence Scatter out, you need to assume your opponent is definitely going to be playing some number of Torrential Gale post board.
Sure.
I think you take out 1 or 2 Vraska's Contempt before the first Essence Scatter.
Consign.
Consign and Commit. Those are 2 interesting cards because both of them are useful against Imaad's deck because Imaad plays enchantment based removal, being a white based deck.
So Commit seems very good because you shuffle away
You
the
shuffle away the approaches. Unfortunately, Commit also puts his approaches that have been graveyarded or
back.
counted already back into his deck. So maybe Commit can go out, but I think Consign making your opponent discard is pretty good in the matchup. How the sideboard, I think it's going to be pretty large in terms of the amount of cards that take out and bring in on both sides. Both players seem pretty well prepared for the mirror.
Let's note the Shad only plays 4 draw spells.
Yeah, it's only the 2 Hieroglyphic and 2 Glimmer of Genius. A lot of the blue-black control decks do only play the 4, sometimes a 5th one. A lot of the time you need to trade 1 for 1, so you need to see your removal more than play a draw spell at Durdle, trying to spin your wheels.
So they really rely on the Search of the Scant for
Yeah, Search of the
Scanters.
Scanter, it's probably one of the best blue cards they've printed in a while. Very essential to making the deck tick, that's why Shad's playing 3 instead of 2. And I think players are about ready to start. I do think Imaad is favored for game 2 and 3, based on the amount of actual win conditions he has that Shad will probably not be expecting. In fact, even cards like Treasure Map can be pretty good in the match.
Shad's on the play. They're just shuffling up. Imaad doesn't play any copies of Excellence Binding.
Not in the main board, he has one in the sideboard.
If
Excellence Binding is pretty good against his opponent's deck that plays mono win conditions of the same name. Multiple copies of both the Rachel Gyalk and the Scarab God.
So you basically, for one card, you're taking out three,
Yeah,
four,
3 or
two.
4 copies of the same. Especially with hits something like Torrential Gyalk, Shadow lose a lot of value just because Excellence Binding stops him from recasting it. And remember Gabe I had against Tahit Taladia. He cast Gideon's Intervention and blinded named Torrential Gyalk when I had 2 copies in hand. Which means I couldn't cast him for the rest of the game.
Seems very good. You probably lost that.
I actually won that game, surprisingly.
Some people have all the luck. So Imaad has Treasure Map, 3 lands, 4 land. I can't see the last 2 cards. Shad has Gyalk land. Did Imaad draw an extra card by mistake?
I think he may have drawn an extra card, which case he might be forced to mulligan. This is however not competitive RDL. So the rules enforcement level will just be
Okay, they just placing the 1 card down because he's always going to draw the card. And he can't affect.
yeah, because he's on the draw, he's gonna draw it anyway.
Yeah.
And Imaad's hand already has a bunch of cards which are good in the matchup.
So Shad kept in the essence catheter, so he knows Imaad's bringing in creatures.
We are going to see Treasure Map. Effectively, Imaad's third copy of Search for Scanter takes the same spot.
Does Treasure Map have to flip?
Treasure Map is forced to flip, I believe,
Because it seems very good.
if you can continue scrying every turn.
Yes. Well, he might have drawn the Search of a Scanter. Does he play it into Counter Magic?
I think you play Search. That will get disallowed.
He might still has the 1 mana up to.
He's definitely going to scry this turn with a counter on. He's probably going to keep Excellence Binding in this matchup. He has a land in hand already.
So if Imaad Excellence Bindings, say for instance Shad's Gyalk, does that allow Imaad still to play Gyalk?
Yes, it's only opponents. Your opponent cannot cast all creatures or opponents of the same name.
Shad's thinking about whether he's gonna keep.
He keeps both. Consign is pretty good against his opponent's deck. Yeah, just reading the flip side of Treasure Map.
So you can have an explosive like turn 5 with Treasure Map.
Yeah, the Treasure Map flips gives him 8 mana effectively.
So you could do a turn 5 approach. Theoretically.
In theory, yes, and then follow it up with a turn 6 approach again.
Ooh. Imaad's got something spicy on top of his deck.
He's going to bottom it. Not too sure if that's correct, but he does need to try and hit land drops. I think he is leaving it on top. Ooh, Shad opting to bounce the Treasure Map to his opponent's hand. So Imaad may try to fight over this.
You think Shad fights back?
Don't think he needs to.
The disallow's just more important.
He may try and counter it on the way down if Imaad lets it drop. Shad does have a copy of Torrential Gyalk in hand and multiple copies of Essence Scatter. Funnily enough, Shad has no removal spells. So if Shad does tap out to counter something else, and he might gets to resolve till an Summoner, it may end up being winning. Not necessarily breaking, but
So is Imaad trying to flip it in response?
I think that is the question that's being asked. So Imaad is going to flip it in response, leaving the card on top.
Imaad gets a land and 3 clues.
That's
Not clues, treasures.
yeah, 3 treasures.
Imaad draw for the turn.
I don't believe he drew his card
Yeah.
for the turn. Just judged coming back to tell him you need to draw a card. And now Imaad's going to cast Tilonali Summoner with Negate as backup.
I don't know if Shad's just making a joke.
Oh, Imaad just passing the turn here.
Oh, he's indicating his 3 treasures. This nice token bound token.
And
Duress.
we're going to see a Duress.
Why would Imaad not play?
The Summoner, the previous turn, he is probably afraid of his opponent having a removal spell. However, he's now no longer going to have a Negate to back up the Tilonali Summoner.
Shad in the tank. He doesn't have a removal spell in hand.
He does not. He cannot take Tilonali Summoner anyway.
He does have Dull Essence Scatter.
So
Shad giving Imaad the race.
more than likely going to take
The binding.
Excellence Binding, and
What do you think of the braid?
the upgrade is not that worrisome. I'd rather your opponent upgrade your Gearhulk than Excellence Binding your Gearhulk.
So, if Shad takes the Excellence binding, he's saying he doesn't care about the negate.
Yeah.
He tosses it.
Okay, there
into
he
the
is
bin.
taking the negate. Imaad's sideboard options seem very, very tricky for Shad to deal with here. Gideon resolving is a problem. Tilonali Summoner resolving is a problem.
So Imaad was actually capable of playing the Gideon
And
And the-
holding up negate and Tilonali Summoner in the same turn.
Strange that he didn't take action. Wow. So Shad doesn't really care about the first approach.
Yeah, he can let the first approach resolve. It's going to cost his opponent a treasure. We're going
Shad
to see
has
Tilonali
to.
Summoner. It's going to get Essence Scattered.
Shad slamming that on the table. Gonna follow up with a
Gideon, which is going to get disallowed.
Shad with the actions.
And now Shad's in a pretty good position.
So,
here.
do you think Shad still plays the Gyalk knowing that he has the Excellence binding?
It depends on what Imaad does. I think Shad will be forced to sort of play Gyalk into something.
Shad wanting to throw in the Vraska's Contempt. Would have been the cleaner answer.
For either Gideon or Tilonali Summoner. Although probably better against Gideon because he has double Essence Scatter already.
Yes, so you would have been able to hold up disallow for Shad just reading the land. Allows him to sack a treasure to draw a card. Yeah, so if Shad waited the turn, would have been able to Vraska's Contempt. But Gideon
Shad
and
just
then have disallow for.
deciding whether or not he needs to consign or to oblivion Imaad's hand.
Scarab God.
Well, the
Locust God.
Locust God.
Imaad loves his
Invocations.
invocation cards. So what do you think of the Locust God in this matchup?
If it ever sticks, it's good. Unfortunately, it's never sticking.
Shad got commit to memory.
Now we may see Shad end of turn play that Torrential Gyalk to draw a bunch of cards.
It seems like Shad is just tied up on mana at the moment.
Yeah, he needs to either draw spells and then draw into lands or draw lands themselves. And Imaad is almost certainly taking Torrential Gyalk out of this pack.
He
There's
just
four
wants
cards.
to draw a card. Draw cards. Does he have a glimmer in the bin?
I don't believe he has Glimmer, but he has top deck land, which is
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Imaad is on 8 mana at the moment.
he may decide to cast Approach of the Second Sun.
So do you think Imaad upgrades or excellent bindings the Gyalk?
Alternatively, Imaad could also flash in his own Torrential Gyalk and then counter Shad's Torrential Gyalk.
Seems like a very good play.
And that is exactly what we're seeing.
Forces Shad to play 4 more. Which you can't. Ah.
And Shad now top decks a copy of Disallow.
So Shad's
Seems
already,
Shad's answers are all turned to late here.
exactly, he has 3 counter spells. 1 removal spell. Shad's going for the Vraska's Contempt now. In the main phase.
I don't know if that's optimal, but I don't think he can actually afford to fight over any more things. Yeah, this treasure map has drawn 3 cards for Imaad. Eaten a spell out of Shad's hand because of a sort of misplay on his part by trying to bounce it when it could flip. Angel Galaxy is now getting exiled. And going up to 22.
It actually pays off for the Gyalk on Imaad's side being exiled.
Yeah, because his opponent has the Scatter God and he does not. And Imaad still declining to do anything with his
Shad finally
mana.
draws another land. Glimmer.
Shad is forced to let this resolve.
Bottom in the Blade and the land.
I think since he has a Blade Land already, he doesn't need an additional copy.
He just has to keep both.
Okay, sure. Oh, no, he hasn't used his Blade yet. So he has 2 copies of a Blade now.
Why do you think he wants the second?
I'm not too sure, but it could be to kill the Scattered God. Although he has excellent smithing for that as well. Imaad casts Approach of the Second Sun.
So Imaad's got 8 mana at the moment.
I think at this point, Imaad's leading on lands, he is leading on cards. Basically has the game locked up at this point.
Well, if Shad can successfully cast Commit to Memory. So
The downside of casting Commit to Memory at sorcery speed is your opponent could still draw into.
So if Shad
Approach.
committed the approach now,
and then Memoried it.
Memoried, you would have gotten 7 new cards. Imaad would have gotten 7 new cards. If Imaad do the approach, would he win?
Yes, because the first one was still cost. It was counted, but still cost.
So approach only needs to check.
Yeah, and you just need to check that the first one was cost from, and the second one is cost from hand. Imaad's still very far ahead on mana and cards.
The Locust card. Well, at the moment he's got 2 upgrades, an Excellence Binding and a land in hand.
Shad almost certainly going to Essence Scatter this.
Don't you think the card quality is quite poor in Imaad's hand.
He has a bunch of cards that do exactly the same thing, and Shad has a counterspell.
So it's basically 3 removal spells and a land.
Yeah, this is still not out of Shad's hands. Imaad's not throwing particularly well. We're probably going to see a turn where Shad casts Torrential Gale.
Imaad's an attempt to.
Probably gonna let Resolve, let Shad, Glimmer of Genius.
Does Imaad not want to upgrade this now?
He doesn't need to fight over it because if he eats a counterspell, he's better off. And cycling, end of turn. Goes into Voters Hunger. Safe to say that Shad is now in the driving seat for the next couple of turns.
Approach seems very good.
Imaad drawing a second copy of Search for Scanter.
So do you think Imaad leads off with Excellence Binding?
On Search for Scanter, I don't think Shad really has the opportunity to try and stop that. He needs to keep his disallow for his opponent's approach to the second suns that will be coming up. So land is going to burn it, flip, Search for Scanter.
Do you think Shad's keeping note where the approach is?
It's a good idea to try and do so, but it's pretty hard to do it in practice.
I wonder if Shad's gonna make Imaad mull. Gyalk is very good draw.
Although Shad can now mull Imaad's top 4 cards, which gets rid of Search for Scanter and gets rid of Approach of the Second Suns, which is what we are seeing here. Braid, Search for Scanter, Disallow, and Cast Out, then Approach. I think he may have gone 1 too many?
No, it was.
No, it was exactly 4. Cast an Ancient Gulk in response to the Search for Scanter activation. More than likely going to Glimmer of Genius here.
Are we still in Imaad's turn?
Yeah, we are still in the end of Imaad's turn.
Shad opting for the draw spell over. Negate.
Shad missing. Or what? No, he's getting the pull from tomorrow, sure. Top takes the Scarab God. Has to be aware that his opponent still has Excellence Binding in hand.
So what's the wording on Delvenbine? Activated abilities.
Target creature gets -3 -0 until end of turn, and activated abilities of that creature cannot be activated.
So you can actually.
It's until your next turn. Unfortunately, it can't target vehicles, so it's not, in my opinion, particularly good.
But it seems very good against Scarab God.
It's pretty good against the Scarab God. Unfortunately, though, the Scarab God can still activate in Imaad's turn, so it doesn't actually work.
So Shad's second bonus hunger. So it's not till your next
It's
turn.
until your next turn. However, in your next turn, your opponent can still activate the Scarab God's effect before your main phase.
Sure.
So even though it may
Ooh.
be
And Imaad
And-
gets to play with the card.
Okay. Imaad's going to gain 2 life and draw a card. The only
Oof.
actual good play for Devon
So how much mana does Imaad have at the moment?
Imaad does not have enough mana to cast both approach and a counter
So he's a
spell.
1 mana short.
And he's going to Glimmer in response to Shad's Search for Scant activation. Going to bottom both cards. And then draw 2 cards. Does in fact find a counter spell.
So we can have a good turn 2.
And Shad's taking Disallow off that Search for Scant activation. The longer this game goes, the worse it's going to be for Imaad.
Though, don't you think Imaad can attempt to fight next turn?
With 1 counter spell, he has 2 counter spells, Negate and Supreme Will. Shad will need 3 counter spells to fight back. Okay, here is going to be Metallurgic Sampling.
So do you think Imaad lets this go? So he fights over the...
Ooh.
He might just have it again.
Ooh.
Does Shad have a negate?
Don't believe Shad has Negate, so I think this could be the end of the game.
And plays a land, plays the approach. Shad just nodding his head.
And now
This is the second one.
is the second one. So both players just trying and
Shad extends that. So, do you think Shad should fight over the...
I don't think you fight over the first counterspell on the Metallurgic Saplings. I don't even think he needed to take the turn to deploy Metallurgic that turn.
Do you think Scatterguard is just a better play?
I don't think he would play Scatterguard either. I think Shad's hand was so...
So, if you play Scatterguard and it gets countered, what is going on?
I have no idea what's going on.
Are they just trying to play this out?
Okay, so apparently the approach of the second sons did not win him at the game for some reason. Okay, no. They were just seeing what would happen if the approach wasn't there.
So, are we going to call it or are we going to watch them play it out?
Well, we do know that Imaad has conceded to Shadia.
As Imaad qualified last week.
So Shad goes up to 2 wins and a draw, and Imaad to 1 win and 2 losses. We'll probably see Shad in the next round. Well, actually, we'll definitely see Shad in the next round. I'm not too sure against whom. It'll probably be against Mono Red or Mono Green. I think the Mono Green matchup is probably one where they kind of favor Blue Black a bit more, and Mono Red might be a bit too fast. But we'll see you guys there.